Today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the 2-week wait fear because I personally experience a lot of fear in the 2-week wait, and I just kind of wanted to share with you guys some of the things that I am personally fearing during this 2-week wait. Really quick before we jump into this, I just wanted to say that some of these are going to be stressors and some of these are going to be fears. Just to define the difference between them for myself, a fear is something that I'm constantly thinking about, that I'm putting too much energy into, that really honestly give me knots in my stomach. And some of these are stressors. So the stressors are kind of things that kind of go along with the fears. So in example being, here shortly you'll hear it, but I'm taking progesterone suppositories. So the fear is that, you know, like the first thing I say pretty much. And then the second thing that I say about symptom spotting, that would be more of like the stressor. So just wanted to explain that really fast, but let's jump on into it. So first off, I am afraid that I didn't actually ovulate. This fear actually comes from the fact that, so I took an OPK this round and it was positive. And then I was told that I was supposed to start progesterone suppositories that night that I got my first positive OPK. Well, I didn't actually because we were moving that day and I just forgot about it. And so then the next day I was like, oh, I need to be doing these. I also got a positive or an almost positive, I would say it was positive, a positive OPK that day as well. And then I started my progesterone suppositories. Well then, of course, the next day, or that night, I believe it was, I was Googling when you're supposed to start suppositories because I was like, they definitely told me start it on the day of your first OPK, or your positive OPK. Whereas when I was reading on Google, you're supposed to start them 3 days after you confirm ovulation. And so I was reading, well, I was thinking, well, what happens if I did start taking them too early? And I was also reading, I hate Google, I was reading that if you do take your suppositories early, that it can actually stop ovulation altogether. So that is my first worry because I'm scared that maybe I hadn't ovulated yet and that I just started the suppositories too soon. So I haven't talked to my doctors about it only because once you start them, you can't really stop them. So I was like, you know, if I don't get pregnant this cycle, if I don't have a period this cycle because I didn't ovulate, well then I know for next time I'll wait till after 3 days. And then I'll also bring it up to them the next time I see my doctors. But there's that one. Going off of that, I also am worried that I'm not using the suppositories properly. Of course, you have the directions. They tell you the directions at the pharmacy, and so they told me to just stick it up there. And so then I started panicking that maybe I'm not putting it up far enough and it's not working as much, because then the next day when I stand up and kind of start to move around in the morning, it'll kind of come out a little bit in more of like a disintegrated form. So I'm sure that that's normal, but it does make me nervous. So then it makes me worry that then they aren't working. Another one, including the suppositories, is that I'm worried at 9 days past ovulation that my boobs hurt really bad only because of the progesterone in my body. Last month, I had the sorest chest and nipples that I've ever had, and that's such a TMI, and I'm so sorry, but they were so sore last month. So sore. Like I couldn't even walk downstairs. I had to hold my chest. And I was like, I'm pregnant, that has to be. But actually sore boobs and sore nipples can mean that you have high progesterone in your body, which can be good if you are pregnant and have high progesterone. That's good because you need it. Whereas you can have high progesterone and then all of a sudden drop, and that's when you get your cool temperature if you're doing your basal body temperature. If you drop though, then you get your period. So I'm nervous that my sore boobs are actually just the progesterone suppositories in my body and they're tricking me into thinking that I'm actually pregnant when I'm not. piggybacking off of that, I also have not been symptom spotting only because I have heard that the progesterone suppositories can cause false symptoms. So like it can pretty much convince you that you're pregnant, but it's actually just the progesterone suppositories. So again, that kind of feeds into that fear that my chest only hurts because of the suppositories. Another one, and I would say that most people trying to conceive that are very aware of miscarriage probably have this fear as well, or those who have experienced miscarriage prior. But I am afraid of miscarrying. If I do get pregnant and I miscarry, I am nervous because I would like to be open within the first week or so of us finding out that we're pregnant, to be able to tell our people, so our friends, our family, you guys, our friends on Instagram and on Facebook and whatnot. But it makes me nervous to do that in the same sense, because I'm scared that if I do that, it kind of like jinxes it. I know it seems really silly, but it just, I don't know, it makes me nervous. And then having to tell everybody and then have to get like sympathy and stuff. But that's kind of why I want to tell people, because my community means so much to me. When we go through hard things and go through bad things, we have to have each other around. So my intention with wanting to tell people right away would be so that I can still, I'm being honest with my community, and they're able and willing to give us support, whether the pregnancy continues on or if the pregnancy ends in a miscarriage. So it makes me nervous that that's going to happen. We've worked so hard for this, and I don't know what I would do. I mean, if this were to end in a miscarriage type of thing. So that is a huge fear during the 2-week wait, all the time, that you're so panicked to get that positive and then for it to end in a miscarriage. So yeah, that's definitely a fear of mine for sure. My biggest fear this month is that it's going to be negative. I would say over any fear, that one definitely trumps it. As positive as I am, as much as I pray and give everything to God, it does make me fearful to think that this is going to be yet another negative. We do positive affirmations, we do law of attraction, everything. We really kind of try and stay as positive as possible and not bring a lot of negativity towards the situation, not say like, oh, if I get pregnant, you know, my husband and I, we've actually been saying like, oh, I am pregnant. And on Fertility Friend, the fertility app, it actually tells you your milestones. And so technically I would be like, 3 weeks and 3 days pregnant right now. And so we talk about it that way, like, oh yeah, I am pregnant. Oh, I'm 3 weeks and 3 days pregnant, you know? And so it makes me so nervous getting my hopes up, because I mean, it crushes you. No matter how prepared you think you are for that negative, you will always be crushed when that shows up. Even if it's just a tiny sliver of being disappointed, it always will be there. So that would be one of my biggest fears. I also have no idea how I will tell Jay, because I have told him pretty much every single idea of how I would tell him pretty much. Not really sure why or how those all came about. I think it all kind of just like happened. Like he accidentally found one of the onesies that I was gonna use. He was like, what's this? And I was like, no, I actually had this like custom made. So that was kind of a bummer, but that's not really a fear, but just kind of like thinking into it, it makes me a little anxious. Like, how am I gonna tell him? Because this is special. I mean, this is a really special moment when I find out that I'm pregnant. I'm not telling anybody else except the doctors first, because of course I'm gonna call the doctors and immediately to ask them if I can get in for a beta quantitative blood test. So basically they'll tell you your beta score, and then they can monitor it to make sure that it is increasing. You trying to conceive girls definitely understand what I'm saying. So other than that though, I'm not going to be telling anybody except Jay, and that entire day will only just be Jay and I being excited about it. We're not going to tell anybody else that day. We want to just kind of focus on it, him and I. So I want it to be special. I want to also capture it, even if it's for myself. I just want it to be a really special moment for both of us. So again, that's not really a fear, but it is kind of like it's a good stressor, I guess you could say. There's definitely a lot of fears that come with a 2-week wait. I would say most people, like I said earlier, is getting a negative pregnancy test, because you work so hard and you're trying to be so patient that when you get that test, it just takes a piece of you every single time. So I wouldn't say this is another fear necessarily, but another one would be getting a positive test is actually really scary to think about, because I just don't know how I'll feel in that moment. Like that moment, I would love to say that it's going to be the best moment in my entire life, but I'm also like really unsure how I'll react when it becomes positive. So I don't know. I mean, that's like, it's not, like I said, it's not a fear, but it's definitely, I would say a stressor in my mind, because you prepare yourself for negatives and you get negatives, and you also prepare yourself for a positive, but then you get negatives. And so when you don't really get positives, or if you've never really gotten a positive and you've never really seen one in person, I just don't know what that moment's gonna be like. That's gonna be a really crazy moment. It'll be a good moment, of course, but it is crazy to think about that is going to happen in my life. Positive affirmation there. It will happen. To help with these stressors though, I really truly like to give myself some positive affirmations. So I'll tell you guys a couple of them that I like to do, because I find that they're incredibly helpful. A girlfriend of mine, she is really big into positive affirmations, even though she's not trying to conceive or anything, but she does positive affirmations every single day for her life and for herself. And it's actually kind of a way of meditating as well. So a couple of mine are, I thank my body for giving me health. And I know that even though I have PCOS, technically that's considered being unhealthy, because it's technically a disease, I'm still healthy. Like I can still walk, I can still talk, I can still eat, I can still run, I can still enjoy my life. So I thank my body for being healthy. And I also thank my body for giving me a chance to carry a baby. I'm not fully infertile where I'll never be able to have children or never be able to conceive. It's just harder to get to that point. So I continue to tell my body, or say to my body, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to carry a baby. And then I also, again, thank my body for working hard to be able to afford to go to the doctor. All these things, you know, you're giving your body these really good things to kind of grow on. If you're constantly negative and constantly saying negative things like, oh, I'm never gonna get pregnant, or, you know, in those moments of weakness, you definitely say those things. All of us do. None of us are perfect. But majority of the things that you should be saying are positive, because when you do say those negative things to yourself, your body feels them. I mean, the mind is really strong, so you definitely want to be as positive as possible. So those are a couple things that I do to try to kind of distract myself from all of the fears. But I don't feel as though we really talk about the fact that it's scary, because we don't want to be discounted when people are like, it'll happen, just relax, you know, stuff like that. So it's just hard, you know, to be validated in those fears. We have to validate each other that it is okay to be fearful. Even Jesus was fearful. I mean, it's okay, but at the end of the day, just remember that your body will do everything that it needs to do to survive. And so yeah, I kind of wanted to just share a little of those fears with you guys today. If you guys have any fears that I haven't gone over, or you want to share your story with me, please comment down below. I would really like to hear your guys' stories and to give you guys as much of support as you guys have given me. And also, if you liked this video, please subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can get our goofy videos that we will hopefully be putting out more often than these serious ones. I also have noticed that I obviously like formal videos a little bit more than vlogging, but I am going to try and get better about vlogging just because I enjoy vlogging. I enjoy kind of carrying the camera around with me. It kind of like throws people off and I kind of giggle at it. But anyways, I love you guys so much and have a good week.